In this lesson, we're going to learn how to make final adjustments using soft selection and the FFD modifier. Now, in this final lesson, we just wanted to take a moment and talk about how to make a change to a high poly object, especially if we've got a lot of geometry on the original object. How do we make those subtle changes? How do we modify that high poly object? Because once we start getting lots and lots of segments and lots of vertices, it can be very difficult to make those adjustments as needed. Just because the higher the polygon count, the softer the material becomes, if you want to think of it that way. And so we can do a couple of things. I can use the soft selection, okay, and that's found under the Edit Poly object here, and we can go to soft selection, and I can come in and turn on use soft selection. Now I need a vertex mode or something like that, one of the sub-objects modes, and you'll notice that if I select a certain amount of vertices, those vertices are red, just like they normally would be. Now the vertices that you have selected are the ones that are going to move 100%. They're going to have full influence whenever using this soft selection. Now you'll notice that we have a whole array of colors that come off of that. And that is controlled by the fall-off value that we have here. So let's take a look at the colors and just kind of discuss what those mean. So whatever you have selected is going to have full influence. That's going to move 100%. That's going to stay with your move tool. Now the orange color, that means that those vertices are going to move at around like 90%. Okay, so they're not going to move quite as fast as the ones you have selected. Down here in the yellow, that's going to be about 50%. So those are going to move half as fast as the ones you have selected. And then once you get down into the blue values, that's around 10% or so. So let's just take a look at how this works. If I select these vertices and I move that up, notice that those are moving, but these aren't moving quite as fast. Okay, so it really gives you the ability to come in and make some really fine adjustments. Now you have to adjust the fall-off value to really get that to work. Okay, to get that exactly the way you want it to be. Okay, now from here, soft selection may not always be the solution that we want. Maybe we want to affect the object more at a global scale. Okay, so the way that we can do that is by using what's called the FFD modifier. And to use that, let's go ahead and apply it under our modifier list. And you'll see that we have FFD, and we have a few different ones. We have 2x2x2, 3x3, 4x4, and then we also have this box and cylinder. So the difference between these is the shape of the cage that is created whenever you apply this modifier. So really quickly, let's apply a 4x4x4. And here you can count 4 control points in each direction. Okay, so that gives you 4x4x4. Okay, and same thing with the 3x3 and the 2x2. You just get smaller cages that way. Now with these cages, you'll notice that it encompasses the entire object that is selected. And what this does is it gives me the ability to grab control points and move those in such a way that it kind of gives me that soft movement. Okay, and I can move these control points and I can get exactly what I want out of this shape. So if I wanted to make that up a little higher, and let's say that I wanted to take this and bring that down some, okay, give it a curve like that, we could do so using this FFD modifier. Now let me go back here. I could bring, just the bottom portion of this handle, and I can bring it down. Now the thing that you want to be careful with whenever you're using this method is you could be adjusting some topology that you don't necessarily want to. So for the example here, you can see that the screw head appears to be offset from the hole that was there from before. And the reason for that is because the vertices were influenced a little bit by the FFD modifier. So how do we ensure that some vertices are not influenced by the FFD modifier? Can that be done? And the answer is yes. The way that we would do this is we would actually set our volume for our piece here. So I can actually come in and adjust what is affected by moving these points around. So I can bring that up here, and this would be a really great way of ensuring that your movements are perfect, okay, that they're going to be very controllable. By doing this, you are setting the volume to match the handle as closely as possible. And I don't have to worry so much about affecting other parts of the geometry. Let me bring this in just a little bit more, as well as this. And so I've set my volume to only affect what's in here. So once I've set my volume, you'll notice that it snaps back. But with set volume here, so what's happening here? Why is it, excuse me, I'm losing my words here. Why is it snapping back to that original volume? Well, we don't want to display the source volume, so we want to turn that off. And then once we go back to set volume, you'll see that it stays. So let's go to control points, and then now I can grab these control points and I can start to pull that up, and notice that it's not influencing as much of my object. Now it's still going to influence it some, okay, but not nearly as much as it was before. So if I wanted to, I would also take these points right here and I would scale those in toward one another and kind of make those a little bit closer in this area. So now let's go to control points. Let's select these, pull that up. Still getting a little bit more of that influence, but still not quite as much. Now I can also come in and I can grab these control points and just pull those, and that would even affect even less. So it's all about how you shape this at first, okay, and then move those control points around. Now let's hit set volume really quickly. And what I want to do really right now is I want to hit this conform to shape. Notice that this is taking this FFD modifier and it's really conformed it to the overall shape. But we've got to remember that may not always be the best case. That's just a quick way to get that to work. Now, if we hit conform to shape, I can adjust this offset. And if I pull that up and hit conform to shape again, we're going to get something a little bit different. So let's set this to 0. Let's conform to shape. Let's turn off the inside and outside points. And let's set that. Now, if it begins to tear up like it is here, we can always hit reset, and that will reset our volume altogether. Okay. So the FFD modifier is a great tool for making some subtle changes in different areas on your model using this lattice, and it can be very, very controlled. Another great point with this FFD modifier is it can also be animated. So this can really help you out in that situation as well. But we're talking about modeling, not animating. So now that we've talked about a lot of the different points for high poly modeling, we want to start talking about our assignment. So this course was all about high poly modeling, and keeping that in mind, we learned how to use the Turbo Smooth modifier, how control loops are going to help us keep volume whenever we apply Turbo Smooth, how to create specific details like cylindrical shapes out of our object, getting more into detail, creating screw heads, creating different shapes, and how to overcome topology issues that might come up with that. How to use Turbo Smooth and smoothing groups to create sharper edges, like our blade here, and really just how to use control loops to create really hard edges or softer edges. We've gone through lots of different tools. We've talked about how to speed up our workflow. And now what we want to do is we want to get into that assignment portion and start figuring out how to do this on your own. So what I want you to do is I want you to go out and I want you to go onto Google and do a Google search of a simple object, something like, you know, maybe a different type of machete like this, a different shape, totally different style of handle, something like that. You could possibly even do something like an axe, or some sort of edged weapon, or or not really a weapon, but an edged object, or a blunt object. Do something like a sledgehammer or something like that. Just kind of keep it industrial and a tool of some sort. That's what I was really looking for. So then what I want you to do is I want you to take that image and I want you to recreate that here in 3ds Max using the exact same techniques that we learned in this course. Now, in the next level, we're going to start talking about hard surface modeling. So we're going to really continue on what we've learned from this course, and we're going to push that even further. We're going to get further into details, and we're going to create something very high poly using a lot of the same tools. We're going to keep reinforcing what you've learned all up to this point, and we're going to create something just really, really great. So I hope you guys had fun. I hope you learned a lot in this course. Continue to practice, finish out those assignments, learn everything that you can up to this point, and then we'll continue on in the next level.